Right now, court appearances across the country for those indicted in a massive mob-linked sports betting ring. Current and former NBA stars, including Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups, among those charged. The feds say the operation stretched across 11 states and involved high-tech gambling and game rigging schemes. Correspondent Nate Foy has got the latest. He's live outside the Brooklyn Federal Courthouse. Wow, this is a big one, Nate.
Yeah, it certainly is rocking the sports world today, John. As you mentioned, court appearances are underway right now, including with members of the Mafia and other New York-based defendants just across the street from where we are. Other court appearances set to happen soon across the country. There are two indictments at play here. One is about an illegal rigged poker scheme that involves two former NBA coaches and players. The other involves a current active NBA player accused of altering his performance during a game as part of a sports gambling scheme. That player is Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier. He was arrested in Orlando early this morning after his team played the Magic last night. He did not play in the game. He's scheduled to appear in federal court in about 20 minutes. Rozier's accused of purposely leaving a game with a phantom injury so that he and his co-conspirators, including his childhood friend, could make tens of thousands of dollars. Meanwhile, NBA Hall of Famer and current Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups was also arrested in Portland this morning for the rigged poker scheme. Now, Billups is scheduled to appear in federal court at 4:30 Eastern Time. He's accused of working with the Mafia to defraud victims who thought they were playing fair poker games that were anything but. One person lost $1.8 million in a single game.
Victims were attracted to play alongside well-known professional athletes and coaches like Chauncey Billups, only to be unknowingly deceived through rigged shuffling machines, fixing the odds in their favor.
So, John, take a look at this. Here is one of those shuffling machines. Prosecutors say they read the cards, predicted which player had the best hand, and then relayed that information to a so-called quarterback who would then use signals to communicate with Billups and others during the games. Prosecutors say the defendants also used X-ray tables to secretly view each player's cards. The NBA put out a statement that reads in part, quote, Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups are being placed on immediate leave from their teams, and we will continue to cooperate with the relevant authorities. Now, former NBA player and coach Damon Jones is listed in both indictments. So he's accused of partaking in the rigged poker games and selling insider information to profit off bets on NBA games. Now, the allegations involve several NBA teams, and not every single person is named in the indictment, but one game that is in question was a 2023 Portland Trailblazers game where there were a lot of bets placed on it, and the Trailblazers sat four of their starters in that game. Now, during that time, Billups was the head coach of the Trailblazers, but he's not facing any charges related to that game. This is an ongoing investigation, and it's part of the same investigation that resulted in a lifetime ban for former Toronto Raptors player Jonte Porter, who admitted to altering his performances during games so that people, including himself, could profit off of these prop bets. We'll send it back to you, John.
There's a famous saying that goes, not all money is good money. And when you're a multimillionaire, such as these NBA players, you have access to the best resources. You have access to millions of dollars. You have access to best property, best asset. You have a lifestyle that so many people wish they had. Why would you associate yourself with the Mafia? Because when you hear the word Mafia, the first thing that comes up in so many people's mind is organized crime. Because the Mafia are mostly associated with crimes such as gambling, extortion, money laundering, and even unaliving people. When you watch movies such as The Godfather, The Sopranos, and you see how much resources they have, and why would a multi-million-dollar players or former players in the NBA associate themselves with the Mafia? You know, this is a really bad look for the NBA. This is a really bad look for the NBA because these allegations by the FBI could potentially compromise the integrity of the game in the NBA. Because when the FBI get involved in cases like these, the FBI has around 97% conviction rating, meaning they are stacked with evidence that what they're saying could potentially be true. And if most of these players, which there's more that could potentially be exposed, this could potentially compromise the integrity of the NBA. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I think there's more players out there, even bigger name than Chauncey Billups, than Terry Rozier, than Damian Jones, that the FBI is looking at. And I could probably start guessing some of them right now, but let's just wait and see.
So that people, including himself, could profit off of these prop bets. We'll send it back to you, John.
You know, if you presented that to a movie studio as a script, they'd say, it's too far-fetched. Nobody will buy it. Nate Foy for us. Thanks, Nate.
It reminds me of the 1979 Boston College point shaving scandal, John.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not old enough to remember that. Thank you, Nate.
All right, let's bring in Fox and Friends co-host Brian Kilmeade and former NYPD Inspector Paul Morrow, a Fox News contributor. Brian, you're familiar with every corner of the sports world. I mean, heads are exploding right now.
I know that you really got two things going on. I think, it's serious in terms of legal stuff on the modified card shuffling, the games in East Hampton, the games in Las Vegas, and I get it. But I think the bigger story is in the sports world, because you have this Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups, who's right now just in the card game, but we'll see if the indictment spreads out. The one thing about betting, the one thing about games, the one thing that puts people in the seats, they think the game is not rigged. They think it's not fixed. The minute you fix the game, where people go there and go, and who's getting paid off? Man, that was a bad pass. I wonder if that person is got a prop bet on the side, is involved in it. Then everything falls apart. You can't have gambling. It doesn't have authenticity. And then people will pay for a ticket for a game that they think is somehow predetermined. Yeah. And now the betting falls apart, the game falls apart, the league falls apart. That's why I'm wondering if it gets bigger than this. Terry Rozier and Damian Jones, a former player, not the biggest names in the world. I'm wondering because the day before we hear about the commissioner of the NBA saying we need more rules when it comes to gambling. Why was he saying that?
So Terry Rozier's attorney just happens to be Jim Trusty, who will be familiar with many people who watch this program because we have him on TV a lot. He said this, quote, "It's unfortunate that instead of allowing him to self-surrender, they opted for a photo op. They wanted the misplaced glory of embarrassing a professional athlete with a perp walk. That tells you a lot about the motivations in this case. They appear to be taking the word of spectacularly incredible sources rather than relying on actual evidence of wrongdoing. Terry was cleared by the NBA, and these prosecutors revived that non-case. Terry is not a gambler, but he's not afraid of a fight, and he looks forward to winning this fight." His last contract, 4-year extensions.
So Terry Rozier makes about $24 million a year. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. When it comes to sports betting, this has been going on for years. When you look back in the past, I remember Michael Jordan was also involved in gambling. And some people are speculating that's the reason why he retired early, because he was involved in so much gambling debt that David Stern, the commissioner at that time, basically forced him to retire early, or else he will basically get public scrutiny, public embarrassment, and he can potentially ruin the image of the NBA, because at that time, Michael Jordan was the face of the NBA. So these three individuals, Damian Jones, Terry Rozier, and Chauncey Billups, they're just the tip of the iceberg. And I think the FBI either has a big name inside the case, or they're looking for someone who could potentially be exposed, such as, I'll guess, maybe LeBron James, maybe Steph Curry, one of those guys, because it will make major news if one of those guys are involved in these type of scandals, especially when it comes to gambling.
Need a few 10,000s in gambling.
Yeah, you got to ask yourself that. I mean, the reason, to be clear, and I know a lot of people are asking this, why aren't they not going to the legal outlets to make gambling bets? And one of the things that's implicated here is the fact that if you win from a bookie, mob linked or otherwise, you don't have to pay the taxes. So if you're really gambling a lot of money, but it's on the books with a service over the internet, you have to pay the taxes. The other thing is that if you're losing and you find yourself short, they will happily loan you money.
Yes.
And that's where we get into the extortion charges, which are in this indictment.
Yeah, one could make the case that they were already deeply in gambling debt and trying to get their way out of it. I'm sure we're going to learn more details. This is the FBI Director, Kash Patel, really sort of, I guess, describing the vastness of this. Listen.
The fraud is mind-boggling. It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation.
Are you just sort of surprised that we're still, I don't know, that this is happening?
Yeah. How about
I don't think it's a coincidence that this basically came out right after the opening.
I mean, four crimes.
Yes, I know that Kash Patel, when it comes to a lot of cases that currently has happened in 2025, he has not handled it pretty well. When you look at the Charlie Kirk shooting, he did not pretty much handle it pretty well. When you look at the Epstein file, he doesn't want to release the Epstein file. Well, because if he does, in my opinion, he probably could be swimming with the fishes, because he is messing with a lot of powerful individual when it comes to the Epstein file. And I think releasing or, coming out talking about this gambling situation with the NBA, this probably deviate a lot of attention away from other cases such as Charlie Kirk, such as the Epstein file, and just many other scrutinies that the FBI were receiving by the public because of how they were handling those type of cases.
Families,
Yeah.
to work together, but they agree for this.
Everybody loves basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they get protection, debt collection, you know what that means, in exchange for a cut of the winnings. In turn, too, I think it's pretty interesting that they have all this high-tech technical device, whether it's earpieces, whether it's x-ray vision, whether it's certain things in your glasses or contacts. This is like Ocean's 11 or whatever number they're up to now, Ocean's 13. I think it's nuts, but people say that if you're addicted to gambling, if the first reason why we're not addicted to gambling, and we say, how could you risk a $25 million contract for a $10,000 bet? But even though Jim Trusty says his client's not, they say it's typical of people addicted. They want the adrenaline and the rush, and they just want to win, even though it doesn't seem to make sense because you have $26 million. You're not betting the ranch, and you can pay the mortgage.
Final word to you, Paul.
Well, so yeah, the 4 of the 5 families are involved. Interestingly, here the Columbos are not, and that's Brooklyn territory. The indictment's in Brooklyn, so it looks like maybe they're on the
You
outs.
have the territories down?
Well, yeah, well, Brooklyn.
Addiction is a very powerful thing, because a lot of people don't really try to fight their addiction. And gambling is also an addiction, especially for most of these athletes. Why do they gamble? Because they like the adrenaline that comes with gambling. Yes, they have millions of dollars, and some of them will basically either be taken over by the addiction where they might risk it all and lose a lot of money, and then they'll end up in the show like 30-30 talking about how they end up being broke. There's so many cases that we can even go online and find out how some NBA player became broke because they were gambling their money away. I use one example. For example, Michael Jordan, he was known for gambling, and he probably still gamble until now probably. But this man is a multi-billionaire. So there's a high likely chance that he will not be able to lose his money.
All you gotta,
I forgot.
They says it all.
I'm not in the indictment. Let me be clear. All right. There's a number of people who are not in the indictment who are not named. Those are likely going to be flips. Interestingly, no RICO charges here, but I'm sure they're working on trying to get something organizational here to get the big bang of the RICO charges. And look, what it really comes down to is we've had these before. There was a fixing scandal in the NBA just a number of years ago, Operation
Apparently
Flavor
there was a
Brown.
point shaving in 1979. But
Right, yeah, you too.
And in fact, going back to Hollywood, in a Friars Club, they had a fixed poker game. They were watching with a camera through the roof, and they were ripping off big Hollywood names. They know institutionally, that is the Mafia, they know how to do this stuff institutionally, and that's the big force multiplier for them, the organization. That's kind of what sets them apart.
Hey,
Gambling's gone mainstream. Every other ad is gambling with the biggest names in sports and celebrities. John Hamm, Shaquille O'Neal.
A lot of money
So it's
to be made.
amazing that anyone's not betting.
You're bored, and you got money.
Overall, this is not a good look for the NBA, in my opinion, because couple years ago, the NBA was already getting scrutinized due to the rules change, due to how soft the players are playing, due to how uh, the fundamental of the game is basically being taken away. There's too many threes. There is, you know, players are not playing defense and so many things, and that even resulted where the NBA was losing a lot of rating, a lot of viewership. And I'm a huge NBA fan. I love watching the NBA. And all these players, such as Terry Rozier, such as Damian Jones, who played with LeBron James in Miami, and I think he's a staff or a coach in the Lakers facility currently, and also Chauncey Billup, who also played for the Detroit Pistons. And I watched the game when they beat the Lakers for the finals, and he won the NBA final. And when he got the job as a head coach for Portland Trailblazers, I was really happy because I lived in Portland for 20 plus years of my life. So I was really excited for Chauncey Billups to be able to get that job as a head coach for the Trailblazer, because for years, especially when I lived in Oregon, when the Blazer had players such as Damian Stoudemire, Rasheed Wallace, and multiple other players, the Blazers were known as the Portland Jailblazers because there was a lot of scrutinies about Portland players who were getting arrested, they were getting found with guns, and they got the reputation, which was they gave them the name of the Portland Jailblazer. And now with this scrutiny on Chauncey Billups, it just put a bad light on the Portland Trailblazer. On top of that, when you really zoom in, you really start to think a lot about how often this be happening, because this happened more often than what people think. And just recently, I saw a video of Chauncey Billups actually either he was going inside the courtroom or coming outside the courtroom, and he was wearing a hoodie that say Clutch Sport. And I'm pretty sure he's probably either managed by Clutch Sport Agency. For the people that don't know what is Clutch Sport is a agency that was funded by LeBron James. And when you look at two of these individuals that are named in this case, Damian Jones, who's a former player, and he also played with LeBron James in Miami, and also he's a staff with the Laker, and currently right now LeBron James is playing with the Laker. And then when you look at Chauncey Billups, he's I think managed by Clutch Sport, and Clutch Sport was founded by LeBron James, and it's run by his friend called Rich Paul. And I don't know, I'm just making speculation. Maybe LeBron could probably be involved. I hope not, because that man, he is the face of the NBA. And if he's involved in this gambling scandal, oh, it would definitely hurt the image of the NBA. And I really think this is not really politically motivated, in my opinion, but I think also the president of the United States is using this opportunity to hit the NBA where it really hurts. Because when you look back, I think in 2020, during the George Floyd case, I remember vividly that the president was really annoyed by the NBA, especially how they were criticizing him. They were criticizing his rhetoric. They were criticizing everything that he was doing. You had people like Greg Popovich talking against the president. You had people like Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, was talking about it. You have player like LeBron James, Steph Curry, and all these players that were using their platform to basically talk down on President Donald Trump on his first term. And I think he's probably utilizing this opportunity. You know, he's sending on Kash Patel to basically hurt the NBA, hit the NBA where it hurts. This is just my speculation. I'm just speculating. But when you really look deep, you realize this is some serious accusation that the FBI is basically accusing these three individuals. And I think this is a developing story. which I will keep an eye on. And I'm pretty sure there will be bigger names out there. But in my opinion, I think the FBI is really looking for a big fish, such as LeBron James, even some GM, even some executive, or even some of the commissioner, because some of the commissioner also has a lot of power, and some of the owner also could potentially also, you know, need to be questioned about these gambling things, because a lot of things has been going on in the background, especially in the NBA, that the commissioner does not reveal. Because I think in 2023, Terry Rozier left the game a little bit early so he can be able to win the bet that he put with his friend. And the NBA investigated, but they basically released him, cleared him, told him it was good. But now the FBI is involved. So in cases like that, this also compromises. It questions a lot about the NBA, about the commissioner, and a lot of questions will need to be answered by the commissioner, by the NBA, especially when it comes to these gambling, because a lot of people lost their money betting on these players. I lost a lot of money also. Well, not a lot. I don't really bet a lot. I just bet probably the maximum, probably $10. I'm not a gambler, but I know people that actually lost a lot of money. And this is a developing information, developing news, and I'll keep an eye on it. So if you're new to my channel, please make sure you like, you share, you subscribe. Till next time.